Hi, Chris Griffiths here again, and in this section we're going to talk about map searches. So, as I told you in the last section, there are two ways of accessing this. You could go to Searches Map, or you can access the exact same thing by going to Maps Map Search. And the first thing you'll see when we come here, surprisingly enough, is a map. Now let's scroll down below the map, because below the map you will see a radius input. And if any of you have used the radius search, this will be very familiar because it's the exact same search criteria that you have in a radius search. The difference being that here you have a map above that will graphically show you what you're searching. Again, before we move on, let's scroll some more down the page, and you will see that you have all of the same fields that you have in a standard search. Okay, so the map search is basically a standard search with the radius criteria added, and most importantly with a map added. And in fact you'll see up here that you also have the additional criteria, which as we all know goes on for about a week and a half. So essentially all a map search is a standard search plus a map plus the radius criteria. Okay, that's why I say that this is really the only search that you need ever learn to use. It's phenomenally useful. Okay, so there are several different ways of doing a radius search. Why a radius search is so important? Well, every time you do a CMA, a comparative market analysis, you are going to want to do a radius search. Okay, and hopefully you'll do that a lot, because every time you list a property you're going to do it to justify the listing price, and every time you sell a property you're going to justify the purchase price by doing a CMA. Okay, so we're going to do this a lot. There are 4 different ways of doing a radius search for a CMA. 3 of them are using this menu here. So you'll see that you can either do it by address, you can do it by listing number. It does not have to be your listing number, so if you're representing a buyer you can use the listing number of the property that you're selling, or you can do it by APN, by assessor's parcel number. So let's pretend that we're doing a listing and we're going to put in the assessor's parcel number. We've got a property profile. We put in our county. You do not put in any hyphens here. So we're going to put in 2562, which is our map book, no hyphen, 013, which is our page, 001, which is our lot. Do not click enter. You will not get what you expect. What you have to do is come here to where it says recenter map, and you'll immediately see that the map now has a little pin where the property is and a half-mile radius around it, because that's what we specified. Notice up here at the top left that you have different views. The default is the road view. You can also go to an aerial view, and I particularly chose this property because this is especially useful in the hillsides. So let's look at this and say, oh gosh, we want to include this subdivision. If we now come down, change the 1/2 to 1, notice we don't have to click anything. The system now changes that radius, and you'll see that we've now included this subdivision over here. Let's go back to the road view. Okay, so basically we have a red area here, and what we've told the computer is that we want to only look at properties that are in this area. Every single one of the 5 million listings in the MLS is geocoded, so its position on the ground is known. So it doesn't matter what area an agent gave to it, or what city, or even what zip code. If the pin that shows its place is correct, you're going to find it using this search. Now let's scroll down, because you'll notice that even though we've said, okay, we want to search in this red area, we still have choices for things like zip code, an area, and city. Now why is this important? Well, let's give an example. If you do a radius search in South Pasadena, for example, there's a very good chance that you're going to get homes in San Marino, Pasadena, Alhambra, Highland Park, all of which have very different school districts. So you would do your radius search, and then you would specify that within that shaded area you only want properties in this zip code or in this city. Okay, so the map is a beginning, not an ending. Okay, you scroll down, you have all of the same search criteria that you have in a standard search. Okay, so basically you can set up a radius search either by APN, listing number, or address this way. All right. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go back to the home page and I'm going to show you now the fourth way of doing it. So again, we can either go to Searches Map or Maps Map Search. We'll come back here. And this way, if you know an area, is way quicker. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to zoom in so that you can see where you want, okay? And then come up here to the right and you'll see you've got these different shapes. Now when you put your mouse over the draw radius and click, you'll see that you get a little yellow button. Okay, so step 1 is to click on that draw radius, get a little yellow triangle. Step 2, come to where you want the center of your radius to be and click the left mouse button. You can now move the mouse and you'll see that you can visually see what neighborhoods you're going to include, and you can also see the radius that it is. And once you've got the exact radius and what have you want, you click that. That is now locked, and now you will come down the page and make all your other choices. Okay, so let's do that again. I'm just going to clear it. So we'll just zoom to where the property is. Step 1, click on draw radius. You have a little yellow triangle. Step 2, click where you want the center of your radius to be. Step 3 is to zoom and make whatever adjustments you want until you've got the area covered, and then click, and you've now got this done, and you can go and do the rest of your search. Phenomenally easy. If you know a neighborhood, this is way quicker than putting in an APN or an address or even a listing number. Okay, so let's clear that. Let's pretend that we want to do a search of Bungalow Heaven. For those of you who don't know, Bungalow Heaven is a nice rectangle here. It goes from Lake and Washington to Hill and Orange Grove. Okay, pretty near a perfect rectangle. This is a great use for the area search. The area search basically is going to be a rectangle. So when I click on it, again, you'll see I have a little yellow triangle there. I come to the first corner of my rectangle. I press the mouse button, and now I come down to the diagonally opposite corner and I close it. And what I've just done is said that I want to search everything in that red area. And again, now I would go down the page and I would make whatever other choices I want. Now, one thing to note about this is you can actually include multiple areas. So I can now go and click on the draw rectangle again, and I can say I also want to include this area over here, and you can do this multiple times if you want. So you can create a pretty complex search using these rectangles, and this works phenomenally well in areas that have a nice north, south, east, west grid. So a lot of Hollywood, almost all the San Fernando Valley, just about everything in south central Los Angeles. It does not work so well in the hillside areas. So let's actually zoom up to La Crescenta and we'll take a look at that. Now, because La Crescenta is on the hills, it's kind of wonky, okay? So we cannot use that rectangle tool up here, but we can achieve the same thing using the last tool, which is the polygon. So again, you click on the polygon. Notice I've got a little yellow triangle. I now go to the first point I want. I click, and this time I'm going to go around. I'm going to click at each of the points until I come back and close the area. So you can use this tool to do trapezoids and all sorts of weird and wonderful shapes. This is a great tool for doing sort of big areas. So let's say that you have a... Sorry, my cat is being a nuisance there. Let's say that you have a client who wants to buy in those exciting foothill areas where we have wildfires in the summer and mudslides in the winter. You can draw a polygon along the hillsides here, and you can pick the exact area. And once you've got your area, you can now come down and say, I only want 10,000 square foot lots, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so very good use for that too. Another thing this is really useful for is for school districts. So let's say, for example, that you have someone who wants to buy in this area called Spar Heights, which goes to a little elementary school called Fremont Elementary here. I can create a polygon that will cover that area pretty precisely. And don't take this to the bank, but this is approximately the boundary for Fremont Elementary. Okay, so once you've created it, now my advice would be to save that map without any search criteria. And the way you do that is by opening the options pane. We actually cover this in the next lesson. But you open the options pane, You go to Save as a Saved Search, we'll call that Fremont Elementary. And that way you can come back and use this map 1 week for someone who wants to buy a 3-bed, 2-bath condo, and the next week for someone who wants to buy a house. Okay? That's it. The map search is probably the only search you will ever need. So master it. It is a wonderful, wonderful search. Thank you.